stars in the Kepler Nebula twisted and danced like angry spirits. Captain Veltar watched them through the viewing port of his research ship, the Seeker's Hope. His forearms moved across the control panel with practiced ease. After 30 years of exploring dead space, he had learned to read the signs. Something was different here. "Captain," his science officer called out. Zara was young for a Zephyrian, her blue skin still bright with youth. "We're getting strange readings from Sector 7. The asteroid field there. It's not natural." Veltar's large black eyes focused on the display. The Zephyrians had been the peacekeepers of the galaxy for 300 years, ever since the humans vanished without a trace, leaving behind empty colonies and questions that still haunted every species. Some said the humans had transcended to a higher plane. Others believed they had destroyed themselves in some terrible war. But Veltar had always suspected the truth was stranger than any theory. "What kind of readings?" he asked. "Metal signatures that don't match any known asteroid composition." "And Captain?" Zara paused, her antennae twitching with nervous energy. "The formation is too perfect, like something was deliberately hidden there." The bridge fell silent. Every member of the crew knew the stories. Human artifacts were dangerous. Even their smallest devices could revolutionize entire civilizations or destroy them. The Galactic Council had strict rules about investigating human ruins. Most were declared forbidden zones, but this was different. They were official archaeologists, sent by the Council itself to map the outer regions. If there really was something human here, they had a duty to report it. "Take us closer," Veltar ordered, "but slowly, and keep all weapons powered down. We don't want to accidentally trigger anything." The Seeker's Hope moved through the asteroid field like a careful predator. The rocks around them were massive, some the size of small moons. But as they got closer to the anomaly, Veltar realized they weren't looking at rocks at all. "By the ancient gods," whispered Thane, the ship's engineer. The massive Kralix warrior rarely showed emotion, but his voice shook now. "Captain, that's not an asteroid. That's a ship." Veltar stared at the display in disbelief. What they had thought was a cluster of asteroids was actually a single vessel. A ship so enormous that it dwarfed their research vessel like a mountain compared to a pebble. Its hull was dark and scarred, covered in 3 centuries of space debris. But underneath the damage, they could see the unmistakable lines of human design. "How big is it?" Veltar asked. Zara's fingers danced over her instruments. "Preliminary scans show 12 kilometers long, 4 kilometers wide." "Captain, this thing is bigger than our largest space stations." The crew exchanged worried glances. Humanity had always built things on a scale that seemed impossible. Their cities had stretched across entire continents. Their ships had carried populations the size of small planets. But this was beyond anything in the historical records. "Can you identify the class?" Veltar asked. "The computer is matching it against known human designs," Zara replied. "Wait, Captain. The database shows a match. It's a supercarrier. Class designation, Indomitable. Every being on the bridge knew that name. The Indomitable was legendary. According to the records, it had been the flagship of the human fleet. The most powerful warship ever built. It was supposed to have disappeared with the rest of humanity 300 years ago. "This is impossible," Thane rumbled. "The historical records say the Indomitable left Earth orbit the day before the Great Disappearance. It should be wherever the humans went." Veltar studied the massive ship on his screen. The hull was damaged but intact. No signs of the catastrophic destruction that would explain its presence here. "Unless it never left," he said quietly. "Sir?" Zara looked confused. What if the humans didn't all disappear together? What if some stayed behind? Veltar was thinking out loud now. What if this ship has been here all along, waiting? The idea sent chills through the crew. Waiting for what? And were there humans still aboard? "Begin detailed scans," Veltar ordered. "I want to know everything about that ship. Hull integrity, power readings, life signs, everything." For the next hour, they studied the ancient vessel. The scans revealed incredible details. The ship's hull was made from materials that their computers couldn't identify. The internal structure was a maze of corridors, hangar bays, and what looked like residential areas. This wasn't just a warship. It was a flying city. "Captain," Zara's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm detecting faint power readings from the core. Very faint, but they're there. After 300 years?" Thane shook his massive head. "Human technology was advanced, but nothing could run for that long without maintenance." "There's more," Zara continued. I'm reading what looks like life support systems. Minimal power but active. And Captain, there are enclosed areas that might be cryogenic chambers. The bridge fell deadly silent. Cryogenic technology was common enough, but the implications were staggering. If there were humans in suspended animation aboard that ship, they would be the first living humans seen in 3 centuries. How many? Veltar asked. Zara worked frantically at her console. The readings are unclear, but the ship is designed to carry... Captain, this is impossible. The ship could hold over 100,000 beings. 100,000 humans, asleep for 3 centuries. The political implications alone would shake the galaxy. The territory that had once belonged to humanity was now divided among dozens of species. If the humans returned to reclaim it, there would be wars that could tear civilization apart. We need to contact the Council immediately, Veltar said, but as he reached for the communication system, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Captain, Zara shouted over the noise. The human ship. It's responding to our scans. Power levels are increasing. On the main screen, they watched in fascination and terror as lights began appearing along the massive hull. Slowly, like a giant awakening from a long sleep, the Indomitable was coming to life. Move us back, Veltar ordered. Slowly, no sudden movements, but it was too late. The ancient ship was already responding. Debris that had clung to its hull for centuries began falling away. Hidden weapon ports opened like sleepy eyes. And deep within the ship something stirred. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, though with the strange accent that marked it as unmistakably human. Unknown vessel. This is the Terran Star Force ship Indomitable. You have triggered our automated awakening protocols. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Veltar looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. They were archaeologists, not diplomats. They weren't prepared for this. But history was being made, and they were at the center of it. This is Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian research vessel Seeker's Hope, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. We are conducting an archaeological survey. We meant no harm. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, and this time there was something different about it. Confusion, perhaps, or disbelief. Captain Veltar. What year is this by the Galactic Standard Calendar? Veltar swallowed hard. It is the year 2687 by the Unified Galactic Calendar. Another pause. Longer this time. When the voice returned, it was barely a whisper. 300 years. We've been asleep for 300 years. The galaxy was about to change forever, and Captain Veltar had just lit the fuse. The Indomitable hung in space like a sleeping giant awakening from a dream. Captain Veltar watched in amazement as more lights flickered on across the massive hull. The ship was so large that it took several minutes for the awakening process to spread from one end to the other. Captain, Zara whispered. Should we move further away? Veltar considered the question. They were already at what they thought was a safe distance, but who knew what weapons that ship carried? Still, this was the discovery of the century. Perhaps the millennium. They couldn't just run away. Hold position, he said, but be ready to jump to faster-than-light travel if things go wrong. Inside the Indomitable, systems that had slept for 3 centuries were slowly coming back to life. Deep in the ship's core, an artificial intelligence designated Morgan was running through millions of diagnostic checks. Primary power systems were stable. Life support was functioning within acceptable parameters. Cryogenic systems were maintaining proper temperatures for the sleeping crew, but something was wrong. The ship's chronometer showed a date that didn't make sense. According to the internal clocks, the Indomitable had been in automated hibernation for exactly 307 years, 4 months, and 12 days. That was impossible. The mission parameters had called for a maximum hibernation period of 50 years. Either the clocks were wrong, or something had gone terribly wrong with the original plan. Morgan began accessing external communication channels. The signal it had received from the alien vessel was still active. The ship that had found them was using standard galactic communication protocols, but there were differences. Subtle changes in language and technology that suggested the passage of significant time. The artificial intelligence made a decision. It would awaken the command crew first. They would need to assess the situation before bringing the rest of the 100,000 humans out of their long sleep. In the command section of the ship, Admiral Sarah Chen felt warmth returning to her body for the first time in centuries. The cryogenic revival process was designed to be gradual, allowing the body to slowly adjust to being alive again, but Chen's mind was already racing. She remembered the last days before the hibernation order, the evacuation of Earth, the terrible decision to leave volunteer crews behind in hidden ships scattered throughout the galaxy. They were insurance policies, sleeping guardians ready to wake if humanity ever needed them again. The mission had been simple in concept, but terrible in reality. Sleep for 50 years while the main human population evacuated to safety beyond the galaxy's edge. Then wake up, assess the situation, and either signal the all-clear or prepare for the return of an ancient enemy. But if the alien captain was telling the truth, they had been asleep for 6 times longer than planned. What had happened to the rest of humanity? Why hadn't they returned? As feeling returned to her limbs, Admiral Chen activated her personal communication device. Around her, other members of the command crew were also awakening. Commander Torres, her tactical officer, Dr. Martinez, the chief medical officer, Engineer Captain Singh. All of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never see their families again. Morgan, Chen said, her voice still rough from the long sleep. Status report. The artificial intelligence's voice filled the revival chamber. Admiral, primary systems are online and functioning. All crew members in cryogenic storage remain stable. However, I must report an anomaly. Our hibernation period exceeded mission parameters by approximately 250 years. Commander Torres sat up slowly, shaking his head to clear the fog of revival. That's impossible. The automated awakening should have triggered after 50 years maximum. I have been monitoring galactic communications during our hibernation, Morgan continued. Based on the data I have collected, it appears that humanity's evacuation was more permanent than originally planned. Admiral Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cryogenic process. Explain. Admiral, there are no human signals anywhere in the galaxy. No colonies, no ships, no communication traffic. According to the historical records I have accessed from external sources, humanity disappeared completely 300 years ago. The galaxy believes we are extinct. The command crew exchanged shocked glances. They had expected to wake up to a galaxy where humanity had returned triumphant. Instead, they found themselves alone, the last representatives of their species in a galaxy that had moved on without them. Show me the external situation, Chen ordered. The main display activated, showing the Zephyrian research ship waiting nearby. It was a small vessel, clearly designed for scientific work rather than combat. But around it, Admiral Chen could see other ships arriving. Word was spreading fast. Morgan, what do we know about the current galactic situation? Based on intercepted communications, the galaxy is now governed by a coalition called the Zephyrian Council. They maintain peace between approximately 47 different species. Many of these species evolved to sentience after humanity's departure. Others expanded to fill the territories we left behind. Dr. Martinez, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. What about the Devourers? Any sign of them? Negative, Doctor. There have been no reports of Devourer activity in the outer galaxy regions for the past 3 centuries. That was something at least. The ancient enemy that had forced humanity to flee seemed to have disappeared as well, but Admiral Chen knew better than to assume they were gone forever. The Devourers had a pattern. They would strike without warning, consume everything in their path, and then vanish for centuries or even millennia before returning. Admiral, Commander Torres said, we need to decide how to handle this. Do we reveal the truth about why we're here? About the Devourers? Chen considered the question. The galaxy had been at peace for 3 centuries. If she told them about the ancient threat, it would cause panic. But if she didn't, and the Devourers returned, billions would die unprepared. One step at a time, she decided. First, we need to establish peaceful contact. Then we learn more about this new galaxy. The decision about the Devourers can wait. Outside the ship, more vessels were arriving every hour. The news was spreading through galactic communication networks faster than light itself. The humans had returned. The legendary species that had vanished without explanation was back. Some species reacted with joy. The peaceful Etherians had built an entire religion around humanity's memory, believing they would return to guide the galaxy to a golden age. Others reacted with fear. The militaristic hegemony saw human technology as a threat to their power, but most species simply reacted with curiosity. What were humans really like? Were they as advanced as the legends claimed? Why had they disappeared? And most importantly, did they plan to reclaim their old territories? Admiral Chen watched the growing fleet outside her ship and realized that every decision she made in the coming days would shape the future of the galaxy. The Indomitable carried not just 100,000 humans, but the hopes and fears of countless alien civilizations. "Morgan," she said, "begin preparing diplomatic protocols and start analyzing the military capabilities of that fleet out there. I have a feeling we're going to need to know what we're dealing with." "Already in progress, Admiral. Should I begin awakening additional crew members?" Chen looked at her small command team. They would need more people awake soon. But every person they revived would consume resources, and they still didn't know if this galaxy would welcome them or try to destroy them. Wake the diplomatic corps first, she decided, and the senior medical staff. If we're going to make contact, we need to do it right. As her orders were carried out, Admiral Chen stared at the alien ships surrounding them. Somewhere out there was a galaxy that had grown and changed in humanity's absence. Species that had never known war with the Devourers. Civilizations that had learned to work together without human guidance. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, and now it was up to her to decide how humanity would fit into this new order. The galaxy was about to learn that the humans were back, but Admiral Chen was still learning what that really meant. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the main conference room of the Indomitable, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible 3 centuries ago. Floating in space before them was the largest diplomatic fleet ever assembled. Ships from dozens of species, each wanting to be part of this historic moment. The Zephyrian Council had arrived first, their elegant vessels forming a respectful perimeter around the human supercarrier. Behind them came the industrial ships of the hegemony, bristling with weapons but flying peaceful flags. The artistic Etherians had sent vessels that looked more like floating sculptures than starships. Even the mysterious Void Walkers had emerged from their hidden domains to witness humanity's return. "Status report," Chen said to Commander Torres. 47 ships from 23 different species. Torres replied, reading from his tactical display. "No hostile actions detected, but some of those hegemony vessels are packing serious firepower. Are we ready for formal contact?" Dr. Martinez nodded from her position near the medical stations. "The diplomatic team is awake and briefed. Ambassador Williams is reviewing 3 centuries of galactic political changes. It's a lot to absorb," Chen understood. When humanity had left, the galaxy was dominated by 5 major species. Now there were dozens of civilizations, many of which had achieved spaceflight only after humanity's departure. The political landscape was completely different. "Morgan," Chen said to the ship's artificial intelligence, "open a channel to the lead Zephyrian vessel." The main screen activated, showing the interior of the alien ship. Captain Veltar appeared, flanked by representatives from several other species. Chen noted the careful positioning. Each delegate was given equal space, suggesting a very different approach to galactic politics than what humanity had left behind. "Admiral Chen," Captain Veltar said, his voice carrying both respect and nervous excitement. "On behalf of the Zephyrian Council and the 47 member worlds of the Galactic Alliance, I welcome you. Home." The word home hung in the air. Chen appreciated the gesture, but she knew the reality was more complicated. This wasn't the galaxy humanity had left. The territories that had once been human colonies were now thriving alien worlds. Billions of beings had been born and lived their entire lives in space that humanity had once claimed. "Thank you, Captain Veltar," Chen replied. "We appreciate your peaceful approach to this situation. I imagine our return has caused considerable discussion." A being that Chen didn't recognize stepped forward. It was tall and thin, with crystalline skin that reflected the ship's lights. "I am Speaker Zeth of the Etherian Commonwealth," it said in a voice like singing crystal. "We have waited 300 years for this moment." The prophecies spoke of humanity's return to guide us into a new age. Chen felt uncomfortable with the reverence in the alien's voice. "Speaker Zeth, we appreciate your faith, but we're not gods or prophets. We're just people who have been away for a very long time." Another alien, this one heavily armored and clearly military, spoke up. "I am War Captain Drex of the Hegemony Forces. We need to discuss territorial claims. Many worlds that were once human colonies are now home to our people. We will not simply abandon them." The tension in the communication channel was immediate. Chen could see other representatives shifting nervously. This was the conversation everyone had been dreading. "War Captain," Chen said carefully, "we have no intention of displacing anyone. Our priority is understanding the current situation, not reclaiming territory." Ambassador Williams stepped up beside Chen. The elderly diplomat had volunteered for the mission specifically because of his experience with multi-species negotiations. "If I may," he said, "perhaps we could arrange a more formal meeting. This is too important a discussion for ship-to-ship communication." Captain Veltar looked relieved. "An excellent suggestion. The Council has prepared neutral facilities on Haven Station. It's located at the intersection of several trade routes, and all species maintain embassies there." Chen nodded. "We'll send a diplomatic delegation. But I should warn you, our ship contains over 100,000 humans in cryogenic storage. They represent the largest concentration of our people anywhere in the galaxy. Their safety is our primary concern." The number clearly shocked the alien representatives. War Captain Drex's armored face showed obvious alarm. 100,000? That's larger than most planetary populations. Which is exactly why this situation must be handled carefully, Ambassador Williams said smoothly. "We're not conquerors returning to reclaim an empire. We're refugees who have been away far longer than expected." Over the next several hours, Chen found herself in the strange position of learning about her own species' legacy. According to the aliens, humanity had become legendary in their absence. Human technology was still considered the gold standard for efficiency and power. Human art and literature were studied in universities across the galaxy. Human political philosophy had influenced the formation of the Galactic Alliance, but the legends weren't always positive. Some species remembered humanity as arrogant and controlling. Others spoke of human weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The Void Walkers, speaking through their mysterious communication methods, warned that humanity's return could disrupt the careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace. Dr. Martinez worked with alien medical teams to establish biological compatibility protocols. Surprisingly, most species could interact safely with humans, though some required environmental suits or filters. The news that humans were basically compatible with most alien biology helped ease some fears about biological contamination. As the day progressed, crews from the Indomitable began interacting with their alien counterparts. The ship's vast hangar bays were open to allow small groups of visitors aboard. Chen watched the cultural exchange with fascination. Engineer Captain Singh found himself in deep discussion with alien technicians about fusion core design. His casual explanation of human power systems left the aliens speechless. What humans considered basic technology was still cutting edge for most species. Meanwhile, alien artists were recording everything about human culture they could observe. The way humans decorated their living spaces, the music that played in the ship's corridors. Even the design of their uniforms became subjects of intense study. But it was the children that created the biggest impact. Some of the crew members who had entered cryogenic storage had been families, including children as young as 5 years old. When these young humans were awakened, their innocent curiosity about the alien visitors broke down barriers that formal diplomacy couldn't touch. Chen watched a young girl named Emma showing a Kralix warrior how to play a simple human game. The massive alien, who probably weighed 10 times what the child did, was carefully following her instructions with the patience of a giant learning from a fairy. "Admiral," Commander Torres said quietly, "I'm getting reports from all over the galaxy. News of our return is spreading faster than we expected. Some species are celebrating. Others are mobilizing their fleets." Chen nodded. She had expected this. The return of humanity was too significant an event to be contained. Every species would need to decide how they felt about sharing the galaxy with humans again. Any hostile movements? Not yet. But the hegemony is definitely nervous. Their territory includes 15 former human colonies. If we decided to reclaim them, we won't, Chen said firmly. Those worlds have been alien homes for 3 centuries. We have no right to displace the people living there now. Ambassador Williams approached them. "Admiral, I've been talking with the Etherian representatives. They're offering us several uninhabited worlds in their territory, good planets suitable for human settlement." It was a generous offer, but Chen knew it came with complications. Accepting Etherian hospitality would align humanity with one faction in galactic politics. That could make enemies of other species. "Thank you, Ambassador. We'll consider all options." As the day ended, Chen found herself standing in the observation deck, looking out at the alien fleet surrounding her ship. 300 years ago, humanity had been the dominant force in this region of space. Now they were guests, dependent on alien hospitality for their very survival. But perhaps that wasn't such a bad thing. The galaxy had grown in humanity's absence. Species that had once been primitive were now advanced civilizations. Conflicts that had once seemed permanent had been resolved through diplomacy rather than war. Maybe humanity's greatest contribution wouldn't be reclaiming their old role as galactic leaders. Maybe it would be learning to be part of something larger than themselves. "Morgan," she said to the ship's AI, "begin preparing a formal address to the Galactic Alliance. It's time to tell them who we really are and why we're here." The galaxy was waiting for answers, and Admiral Chen was finally ready to give them some truth. The truth came in pieces, like fragments of a nightmare scattered across time. Admiral Chen stood in the Indomitable's main archive chamber, surrounded by data cores that had been sealed for 3 centuries. Each core contained pieces of humanity's final days in the galaxy. As Morgan integrated the information, a picture began to form that made Chen's blood run cold. "Show me the evacuation records," she ordered. The holographic display activated, showing Earth as it had been during the last days. Chen watched her homeworld in its final hours of human habitation. Massive ships filled the skies, carrying billions of people to safety beyond the galaxy's edge. But the evacuation wasn't orderly. It was desperate. "Morgan, play the final military briefing." The AI's voice took on the careful tone it used for sensitive information. "Admiral, some of this data was classified at the highest levels. Are you certain you want to review it? I need to know what we're really dealing with." The archive chamber filled with the ghostly image of General Harrison, the man who had been Chen's commanding officer during those final days. Even in the recording, his face showed the strain of making impossible decisions. "This is the final strategic briefing for Project Sleeper Guardian," the general's image said. "The Devourers have breached our outer defenses earlier than projected. Intelligence suggests they're not just returning to reclaim territory. They're bringing something new. Something worse." Chen felt her heart racing. She remembered the original briefing. But this recording contained details that had been kept from most of the military leadership. "Our deep space monitoring stations report massive energy signatures moving in from the void between galaxies," General Harrison continued. "Not just Devourer ships, but something else. The scientists are calling them harvesters. According to the data, they don't just consume planets. They consume entire star systems, turning matter itself into some kind of dark energy." The recording showed tactical displays that made Chen's mind reel. The force heading toward their galaxy wasn't just large. It was impossible. Thousands of ships, each the size of small moons. Behind them came things that weren't ships at all, but seemed to be living creatures capable of surviving in the vacuum of space. "The evacuation will remove 98% of humanity to safe zones beyond the galactic rim," the general said. "The remaining 2% will crew the Sleeper Guardian vessels. Your mission is to wait 50 years. If we haven't returned by then, it means we failed. If the Devourers return without us, you are humanity's last hope." Chen paused the recording. Around her, the archive chamber felt suddenly cold. The mission parameters, she remembered, had been sanitized. The truth was much worse. "Morgan, show me the Devourer files." New displays activated, showing humanity's accumulated knowledge about their ancient enemy. The Devourers were old. Older than human civilization. Older than most of the species currently in the galaxy. They appeared in the historical records of dozens of civilizations, always described the same way. Perfect predators that consumed everything in their path. But the files revealed something else. The Devourers followed a pattern. They would arrive in a galaxy, strip it of all useful resources, then move on to the next. But they always left behind what humans had termed sleeper nodes, hidden installations that would activate if the galaxy ever became populated again. "Admiral," Morgan said, "I'm detecting concerning data in the deep space monitoring logs." "What kind of concerning?" "During our hibernation period, I maintained minimal sensor contact with galactic monitoring networks. 3 days ago, sensors at the galaxy's rim detected energy signatures consistent with Devourer technology." The words hit Chen like a physical blow. "Are you certain?" "The signatures match archived Devourer ship profiles with 97% accuracy." "Admiral, they're coming back." Chen stared at the tactical displays showing the current galactic situation. Dozens of thriving civilizations. Billions of beings who had never heard of the Devourers. A peaceful alliance that had never faced an existential threat. How long do we have? Based on the detected energy signatures and known Devourer travel patterns, I estimate 18 months before they reach the outer colonies. Perhaps 2 years before they penetrate the core systems. 2 years to prepare a galaxy for war against an enemy that had driven humanity itself into exile. Chen felt the weight of impossible responsibility settling on her shoulders. Morgan, are there any other sleeper guardian ships? I have been monitoring automated beacon signals during our hibernation. The Defender went silent 200 years ago. The Vigilant stopped transmitting 50 years ago. However, I am detecting a faint signal from the Eternal, which should be positioned in the Andromeda Reach. And, Admiral, there's something else. Tell me. I've been analyzing the galactic communication networks. There are patterns in the data that suggest other human technologies are still active. Not ships, but installations. Hidden bases that were part of a contingency plan. Chen pulled up the strategic maps. If there were still human installations scattered throughout the galaxy, they might have a chance. But first, she had to convince the galactic community that the threat was real. Prepare a full briefing package, she ordered. Everything we know about the Devourers. Their capabilities, their patterns, their weaknesses. We need to present this to the Galactic Alliance. Admiral, sharing this information will cause massive panic. The alternative is watching billions die unprepared. Over the next several hours, Chen worked with her team to prepare the most important presentation in galactic history. The archive contained centuries of research on Devourer tactics, technology, and behavior patterns. Most of it painted a terrifying picture of perfect predators that had consumed entire galaxies. But there were weaknesses. The Devourers relied on overwhelming force and the element of surprise. They had difficulty adapting to new technologies and tactics. Most importantly, they had never faced a united galactic defense. Every previous civilization had tried to fight them alone. Dr. Martinez joined Chen in the archive chamber, her face pale from reading the medical files. Sarah, the biological data on the Devourers. They're not just another species. There's something else entirely. The genetic analysis suggests they might be artificial constructs, weapons created by someone or something else. Weapons? Created by whom? That's just it, we don't know. The files reference something called the Creators, but all the data about them has been classified beyond our access level. Chen felt a chill. If the Devourers were weapons, what did that say about whoever had created them? And why had they built such perfect instruments of destruction? Admiral? Commander Torres called out from the communications station. We're receiving priority signals from Haven Station. The Galactic Alliance Council is requesting an emergency session. They want to discuss the historical implications of our return. Chen looked at the data surrounding her. Historical implications. If only they knew. Tell them we accept. And Commander, we're going to tell them everything. Everything, Admiral? About the Devourers. About why humanity really left. About what's coming. Chen looked around the archive chamber one last time. It's time this galaxy learned why humanity was really feared. We weren't conquerors or explorers. We were the only species that had ever successfully fought off the galaxy's worst nightmare. As the Indomitable prepared to depart for Haven Station, Chen found herself thinking about the billions of innocent beings living peaceful lives throughout the galaxy. In 18 months, their worlds would be under attack by an enemy beyond their worst nightmares. But this time, humanity wouldn't face the Devourers alone. This time, they had allies, species that had grown strong in the centuries of peace, technologies that had been developed in humanity's absence, unity that had been forged through diplomacy rather than conquest. The galaxy was about to learn that the humans hadn't returned as conquerors. They had returned as guardians, carrying a warning that could save or damn them all. The question now was whether anyone would believe them in time. The Great Assembly Hall on Haven Station had never hosted a gathering like this one. Representatives from every known species filled the chamber, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center of it all stood Admiral Sarah Chen, about to deliver news that would change everything. Members of the Galactic Alliance, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the universal translators. 300 years ago, humanity didn't leave by choice. We were driven out by an enemy so terrible that evacuation was our only option for survival. The chamber erupted in whispers and shocked exclamations. War Captain Drex of the Hegemony leaned forward aggressively. "You're saying humanity fled? The species that conquered half the galaxy ran away?" "We didn't conquer anything," Chen replied firmly. "We were trying to protect it, and now that enemy is returning." She activated the holographic display system, filling the chamber with images from the human archives. The assembled delegates watched in growing horror as the data revealed the true nature of the devourers. Ships the size of cities, creatures that could devour entire planets, technologies that turned matter itself into weapons. Speaker Zeth of the Etherians spoke first, her crystalline voice trembling. "These beings, they're the destroyers from the ancient prophecies, the ones who consumed the first civilizations. How long do we have?" Captain Veltar asked, his diplomatic training keeping his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. 18 months until they reach the outer systems," Chen replied. 2 years at most before they penetrate the core worlds." The chamber fell silent. Then War Captain Drex stood up, his massive form dominating his section of the assembly. "Even if this is true, what can we do? If these devourers drove humanity into exile, what hope do the rest of us have?" It was Commander Torres who answered, stepping up beside Admiral Chen. "Because this time we're not fighting alone. Humanity faced the devourers with the technology and unity of 3 centuries ago. This galaxy has grown far beyond what we left behind." Dr. Martinez activated a new set of displays, showing comparative technology analyses. "Your shield generators are more efficient than anything we had. Zephyrian biotechnology could provide advantages we never possessed. Even hegemony industrial capacity exceeds what humanity achieved at its peak. But do we have the will to fight?" asked Ambassador Korvac of the Trade Federation. "Our species have lived in peace for 3 centuries. Most of us have never seen war." "Then you'll learn quickly," Chen said, her voice carrying the weight of experience, "because the alternative is extinction." Over the following days, the impossible began to happen. Species that had been rivals for centuries started working together. The Etherians shared their advanced shield technology. The Kralix contributed their warrior traditions and tactical knowledge. Even the mysterious Voidwalkers emerged from their hidden domains to offer assistance. The Indomitable became the center of the largest military buildup in galactic history. Admiral Chen found herself commanding not just her own ship, but coordinating with fleets from dozens of species. The Supercarrier's vast hangar bays were converted into construction facilities, building new ships that combined human engineering with alien innovations. "Status report," Chen requested during one of the daily command briefings. Engineer Captain Singh looked up from his technical displays. "We've integrated Etherian shield generators into 37 ships so far. The Zephyrian biocomputers are improving our targeting systems beyond anything I thought possible. And, Admiral, the Kralix have provided us with something incredible. Show me." Singh activated a new display, revealing weapon specifications that made Chen's eyes widen. "They call them Starbreakers, antimatter weapons capable of cracking small moons. They've been developing them in secret for 50 years. "Why?" Chen asked. War Captain Drex, who had become an unlikely ally, answered from his position at the tactical station. "Because some of us remembered the old stories. We prepared for the day when the galaxy's nightmares might return." As the preparations continued, more good news arrived. Morgan had successfully contacted the Eternal, confirming that at least one other sleeper guardian ship had survived. Better yet, the hidden human installations throughout the galaxy were coming online, providing manufacturing capabilities and advanced weaponry that had been sleeping for centuries. But the most remarkable development was the Unity itself. Species that had never worked together were sharing their most advanced technologies. The Hegemony opened their military academies to alien officers. The Etherians welcomed warriors into their research facilities. Trade routes became supply lines carrying resources to every corner of the galaxy. "It's extraordinary," Ambassador Williams observed during one planning session. "In 3 centuries, these species have achieved something humanity never managed. True cooperation between fundamentally different civilizations." Chen nodded, watching alien engineers working alongside human technicians in the ship's laboratories. Maybe that's what we were missing. We always thought we had to protect the galaxy ourselves. We never considered that the galaxy might be capable of protecting itself. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yolan, a young Zephyrian scientist, was studying the Devourer energy signatures when she made a discovery that changed everything. "Admiral," she announced excitedly during a research briefing, "the Devourers aren't invincible. Their technology has a fatal flaw." Chen leaned forward. "Explain." "They rely on harvesting energy from the matter they consume. But that process creates a specific type of quantum resonance. If we can generate the inverse of that resonance, we can disrupt their entire power system." Dr. Martinez finished, understanding immediately. "It would be like cutting off their fuel supply in the middle of a battle. Can we build weapons that generate this inverse resonance?" Torres asked. Dr. Yolan nodded enthusiastically. "With Etherian crystal technology and human quantum physics, absolutely. But we'll need every manufacturing facility in the galaxy working together." The final months before the Devourer arrival became a race against time. Entire star systems were converted into weapons factories. The great university worlds became research centers. Even agricultural planets contributed, growing the biological components needed for Zephyrian bioweapons. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the largest military fleet ever assembled. Ships from every known species stretched as far as the sensors could detect. Human supercarriers worked alongside Kralix dreadnoughts. Etherian research vessels shared formation with hegemony battleships. "Morgan," she said. "Final fleet count. 12,000 combat vessels from 47 different species," the AI reported. "Combined crew complement of over 50 million beings. We have successfully integrated the quantum resonance weapons into 60% of the fleet." Commander Torres approached with the latest intelligence reports. "Admiral, deep space sensors confirm Devourer scout ships have entered the outer rim. First contact is estimated in 72 hours, Chen nodded. After 18 months of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. But as she looked at the diverse fleet surrounding her ship, she felt something she hadn't experienced during humanity's first war with the Devourers: hope. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication system. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Starforce ship Indomitable. 300 years ago, my people faced this enemy alone and were forced to flee. Today we face them together, not as separate species, but as one galaxy united in defense of our homes." The response came back in dozens of different languages, but the meaning was universal. The galaxy was ready to fight. As the fleet moved toward the outer rim, Chen found herself thinking about the humans still sleeping in cryogenic chambers throughout her ship. When they awakened, they would find a galaxy that had grown beyond humanity's wildest dreams. A civilization that had learned to value cooperation over conquest, diversity over dominance. The Devourers were coming, just as they had come before. But this time, they would face something they had never encountered in their ancient existence: a united galaxy that refused to be consumed. The battle for the future was about to begin. And for the first time in galactic history, the prey had become the hunters. "All ships prepare for faster-than-light jump," Chen ordered. "Let's go show these Devourers what a united galaxy can do." The stars streaked past as the greatest fleet in galactic history jumped toward its destiny, carrying the hopes of billions and the promise that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds.